Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Humanity Matters Weekly. I am your host, Dr. Philip Fletcher. Glad you're able to join me this week as we engage with ideas regarding human flourishing, whether that's faith and philosophy, nonprofit leadership, or social issues. We want to engage with ideas and we want to encourage you to flourish as a human being because we believe here that every human being has been made in the image and likeness of God. So glad you're here today. As always, you can join me on any of my social media outlets, whether that's at Twitter, at my Facebook, that's Dr. Philip Fletcher. As well, you can find me at Humanity Matters, as well as the website philipfletcher.org. That's philipfletcher.org. Hey, if you haven't caught any of the rap, hip hop, and freedom, then I would encourage you to pick that up. Rap, hip hop, and freedom. That releases on Fridays. And what we have been doing is really engaging with a variety of hip hop artists who have come out over the years. And so if you have seen volume one, we looked at Public Enemy, NWA, Ice Cube, and the like. And so I would encourage you, hey, to check those things out as well. And so those release Friday. And this coming week, we'll be looking at Boogie Down Productions and the West Coast All Stars. And we want to really dig into this whole thing about, hey, why don't you ever hear anything about black on black crime, right? Why don't you ever hear about people speaking out about what's happening in some of these black communities? Well, the reality is rap and hip hop, they were addressing that back in the late 80s and 90s. And so that's what we're going to be digging into, as well as checking in to see how classical liberalism and libertarianism speaks to those things. So be joining us as those videos release on Friday. This past Friday, looked at Lil Baby and his track, The Bigger Picture. And before that, All Hail the Queen. We looked at Queen Latifah and Ladies First. So check that out. Also, coming up in June, we'll be having a Humanity Matters one-on-one discussion with Lawrence W. Reed. He is the president emeritus of the Foundation for Economic Education. It's going to be a great time as we talk about paradigms regarding communism and socialism and fascism and capitalism. And we're going to be engaging with his book, Was Jesus a Socialist? Right? So that should be pretty interesting as well. And be launching this coming week, just trying to do something to help people, motivate them, speak into their lives outside of like the politics and social issues, but really seek to encourage, right? That whole word, encourage, putting courage into men and women. Obviously, there's courage already residing in you. I just want to be able to connect with you in that way. So thinking out loud be some real short messages, inspiration. So hey, check those out. Subscribe to them on the Humanity Matters YouTube as well. They will be available at the podcast. That's Humanity Matters Podcast. And check that out as well. And you can find that over on Anchor. Yeah, so really, a lot of different things going on in our nation right now. But if you didn't know, I like superheroes. I like to collect. Behind me, got a lot of different things: Captain America's shield, Funko Pops, the like, Star Wars Legos. I like to collect statues reflecting superheroes. I love the idea of the hero. I love the idea of the hero journey. If you see like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, that's a great example of the hero journey. You look at Marvel, great examples of the hero journey. One of the greatest examples if you follow the story of the Winter Soldier in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is a great example of the hero journey. Obviously, you've got Iron Man and Captain America, Thor, the usuals. But the hero journey is awesome. You know, you got that individual that um, discovers his or her purpose and meaning in life because they're aiming at something larger than themselves. They're being guided by an ideal that is larger than themselves. And so, one of those great examples, Netflix released this 8 episode series called Jupiter's Legacy. And Jupiter's Legacy is the product of Miller. Now, he wrote as well, if you're familiar, Civil War, the first Civil War in Marvel. That's where you had Captain America and Iron Man at odds with one another. It resulted in the killing of Captain America, but he comes back. The Winter Soldier picks up Bucky Barnes, picks up the shield, and a whole host of things happen because of what is called the Superhero Registration Act. And so Miller wrote that as well as Old Man Logan. If you've seen the movie Logan, great. The comic book is awesome as well. But he's also responsible for the development of the Winter Soldier, the character, as well as the movie Kick-Ass, if you are familiar with that movie. So in Jupiter's Legacy, what you've got are these 6 heroes who receive their powers during the stock market crash back in the 1920s, right? They go on this journey. They end up on this hidden island and they get transported to one of the moons of Jupiter and they receive these powers. And about 90 years or so, these heroes do all these great hero things, but then their children come and the next generation, if you will, and there's like this challenge, right? Because the union, what they're called, they have this code, and the code is we don't govern and we don't kill. And you know, it's modern, it's set in the modern day, and the younger generation is challenging this code of we don't govern and we don't kill, right? And the lead character, played by Josh Duhamel, who was pretty great, and it gives the vibe of a DC comic series. It skips my mind right now, but it's fast forward in the future where you've got an older Superman, an older Batman, older Wonder Woman, kind of the same vibe. The name skips me right now, and I've got the whole series, but I'll get back to it. So, anyways, but Josh Duhamel, he gives a great interpretation. Long white hair, grizzled. He's still going across the world, seeking to do the right thing and upholding this code. He's upholding this code. And so this idea of the code is pretty critical in the superhero journey of the story called Jupiter's Legacy. But the code gets tested. It gets tested in a changing world. Like bad guys are now seeking to kill heroes, and the younger generation feels like, hey, how are we supposed to respond? Like they've upped the ante. They're not the bad guys of old, right? And so, how are they supposed to respond? And so, this idea of the code, I like this idea because it offers the heroes some principles to live by. It offers the heroes some things in which governs their decision-making process and how they are to hold themselves to a higher standard so that they don't descend to what the bad guys are, even though the heroes recognize that they can become the bad guys. And it kind of echoes some things. There's a book, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and this through line of good and evil that runs through every human being. And in the case of Jupiter's Legacy, the code is meant to guide these superheroes from crossing over and embracing what Carl Jung would describe as embracing fully the shadow and becoming uh, bad people, evil bad guys. And so, uh, recognizing you got to recognize the spirit of the code, but not be a slave to it. The code is like a North Star, if you will, right? Or if you're like lost in the desert and you need to, find your way east, hopefully you'll be able to see where the sun rises, right? And you'll be able to point yourself in that direction. It's that guiding idea that seeking to have you continue to live out your purpose, discover your meaning in life. Because when you lose focus, if you stray away from, this high ideal, then obviously bad things can occur. And so watching Jupiter's Legacy, it reminded me, for every one of us, it's important for us to have something to aim for. Like in the Bible, it talks about that Christians should be aiming toward the glory of God, right? And embracing Jesus Christ, right? And falling short of that is what is described as hamartia, right? Or sin, right? And so when, taking that, and even if you're not a person who ascribes to a particular religious or spiritual belief, what we do know is that we should all be aiming for something, because as we're aiming for something, we're discovering our purpose. And as we are moving forward towards what we're aiming at, or we're shooting at what we're aiming at, we're finding meaning in life. And that means that these principles, this North Star that we are aiming towards, we're going to be tested. We're going to be tested. And there's times we're going to hit the mark, and there's times we're going to fall short. There's times we're going to succeed, and there's times we're going to fail. And it's in those successes and in those failures we begin to discover, day after day, success and failure, who we are as individuals. Yeah, who we are as individuals. So, hey, subscribe to the podcast. We'll be talking more about Jupiter's Legacy and all that over there. So, it's not about the principles in question. I think ultimately what is being tested is who we are as human beings. There comes a point in the show, the titular hero, played by Josh Duhamel, his son, who's also a superhero, is captured in a prison, and the bad guy is about to basically rip his head off. And the bad guy throws the code back in his face, and he challenges him basically, what's more important, the code or your son, right? That's a huge question. What's more important, the code, kill, or will the father kill in order to save his son? And that's those deep questions that we're always wrestling with. Again, not being a slave to the principle, but that principle being our North Star that guides us. And obviously, the deeper principle in the code of we will not govern and we will not kill is valuing life, right? Valuing human life, the freedom, right? We will not govern, but then also just human existence overall. So Jupiter's Legacy, I think it was pretty good. I give it like an 8. Check it out on Netflix. They're not paying me. Again, I like superhero type stuff. From time to time, I'll talk about different superhero type things. Bring on, different people to talk to. Maybe show some of my collectibles. Because again, the hero journey I think is important. And we see it exemplified, obviously, in a host of different stories and myths and literature throughout a variety of cultures and generations. And so check out Jupiter's Legacy. I don't think you will be disappointed at all. Disappointed at all. So, hey, thank you for chiming in today. Hey, if you ever got a question, hit me up, humanitymatterspodcast at gmail.com. Humanitymatterspodcast at gmail.com. So, continuing on, it's really good not to like talk about like politics stuff today. It's kind of refreshing. Let's really just talk about just the human experience. I think it's important. So, fathers matter. I've been thinking a lot about fatherhood. I've got 3 biological kids. I've got some adopted kids as well. I mean, they're all adults, but either way, treat them as if they are my own. Um, thinking about the importance of fathers. Fathers matter, and I'm not using that phrase like Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. That's not what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about fathers matter, I'm talking about the influence fathers have on their children. Again, reflecting back to Jupiter's Legacy, the fathers positively and negatively mattered, and it impacted their children. Their relationship with their children was significant, and it demonstrates the importance of the male figure in the life of children. One is that when you become a father, you're assuming a responsibility, and you have to assume it, embrace that responsibility, and run with it. And it's that responsibility of cultivating a human being so that they can be, if you will, acceptable to society, so that society doesn't have to do some things to control that human being that you help produce. No, you want to take the responsibility to encourage that son or daughter that is yours, whether biologically or adopted, and you want to put things in them that is for their good. Fathers matter as well because you can put some negative things in them by what is said, by what is done to them emotionally, what is done to them physically. So again, fathers matter. The other thing is this, is that as you assume the responsibility and embrace that responsibility, the other thing is helping your child as they become a teenager, as they become an adult, helping them craft a plan. Now, in a plan, because I love plans, all right, plans require discipline. And when I mean discipline, I'm not talking about some negative thing. I'm talking about habits. I'm talking about doing some things in order to achieve and reach that aim. So they have purpose, they're discovering meaning in order to achieve that aim, and also having within that plan a discipline to stop doing other things that are having them fall short of that aim and is preventing them from living out their purpose. Right? And again, we all struggle with this. But I think as we help our kids in discipline habits, we help ourselves as well. But also have to remember this, as you help your kids with a plan, all right, as you help them with discipline, continuing to do good habits and stopping bad habits, right? The other thing that is helpful as a father, okay, is looking for them and celebrating those small successes, right? I think a lot of times we try to take off more than we can chew. But what would it look like to see our kids have those small successes, and those small successes build on one another, and at the same time allow for small failures? Now, I always talk about having low price tag, high price tag. There are low price tag things that I want my own young adult children to experience. Low price tag stuff, right? And hopefully, in learning from those low price tag failures, they can avoid those high price tag failures. So, fathers, you matter positively and negatively, right? And if you are a father that has negatively impacted your child, I would encourage you get some help, therapy, talk to an older person who has waded their way through some difficulty. Figure out those things that you are wrestling with and where you have fallen short. And then at some point, reach out to your child and say, I'm sorry. Now, your child may not say, I forgive you. Your child may not say, I love you and all that. But the simple act of you just reaching out to your child and saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry I failed you in this way. That can go a long way to your child's healing. And when that child is ready to come back to you and respond in an appropriate manner that is healthy for them, then you should listen to them as well. So that's kind of the theme I've been talking about today. You know, having a code, essentially, what are you aiming towards? What's that North Star? Right? And I think that's very important for fathers. So if you haven't watched Jupiter's Legacy Fathers, if you're a male and you're a father, I would encourage you to look at it and don't watch it from this is a superhero show, but pay attention to the father-son, father-daughter interactions. What do you take from that? Is there anything that you see in that? It's 8-episode series that's reflective in your own life. Maybe you need to say sorry to your child for something that you have said or have not said, something you did or did not do that you should have been doing. And to those fathers who would be considered like responsible, right? Who considered like a good father, a good dad, hey, help your child, your children craft a plan. Continue to help them develop habits that are good, that are assisting them towards their aim, and help them stop other habits that are preventing them from achieving that aim. That's important as well. It really is. It really is. So, hey, this has been the Humanity Matters Weekly. Philip Fletcher. I am your host. Again, I just want to remind you of a couple of things that are coming up. Just connect with me on my social media across all these different types of platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trying to hit 100, right? Before the summer. So I would greatly appreciate it as well. You can find me on the World Wide Web at philipfletcher.org. Hey, if you want to sponsor our show, just want to give a shout out to Julia and to Ashley and to Dan who have sponsored this show, right? You can sponsor as well. Just hit me up on PayPal, pfletcher73 at gmail.com. That's pfletcher73 at gmail.com. And just a reminder, in June, we will be having Lawrence W. Reed. This will be a Humanity Matters one-on-one discussion. He is the president emeritus of the Foundation for Economic Education, Humphreys Family Senior Fellow, and Ron Manners Global Ambassador for Liberty. That'll be a great discussion. And then coming Friday, Rap, Hip Hop, and Freedom. It's going to be a great episode. It's going to probably be a long one because we'll be looking at two songs. One that came from East Coast rappers and then one that came from West Coast rappers. So that'll be pretty awesome. So, hey, remember to be loved, to be kind, to be generous, and remember to live in hope. We can do the impossible. Y'all take care. God bless. When I say your name, it says you exist and that you matter. I can't transform what I don't think exists. I won't transform the person I don't think that matters.